Hey everybody, this is your pal Cindy here. We have an amazing guest, a good friend. I haven't seen him for a long time, so I can't wait to catch up with Alfredo Paredes. Alfredo, I'm super happy that William reconnected us, and I'm so happy to see. Isn't it such a crazy thing?
I know, and I was thinking about it. We did so much together, so I was
I
like,
know.
what happened? You know?
I know. And by the way, okay, so wait, first of all, I want to tell everybody about you. We'll get to that. Alfredo Paredes, he's been 33 years at Ralph Lauren, Chief Creative Officer, Executive VP. He ruled the creative world at Ralph Lauren. He is unbelievable.
Thank
And
you.
a couple years ago, you started your own studio, and we want to talk all about that. But how have you been doing during COVID?
Well, considering that I started my studio 3 months before, actually pretty well, I have to say. You know, given yeah, very well. I'm not going to complain. Aside from the high cortisol levels of stress, but everything is good. It's good. Thank you for asking.
I know. Well, listen, I'm super happy that we get to share what you're going to be doing and all the amazing work that you've done in the past. I have to tell you a couple things. First of all, it's crazy that it's this week that this was organized because we just did our first ever get together celebrating Pride Month for DIFA, and we did it over at the Moxie on the roof.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it was just happening. I have here's my pretty DIFA.
I miss DIFA. I miss DIFA.
Well, don't say that because all you have to do is raise your hand, Alfredo.
I mean, you know me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so everyone out there, so Alfredo was a huge supporter of DIFA and Ralph Lauren, and what you guys did was extraordinary for so many years. And it's kind of crazy in the best way that right now, you know, the world is so much more open, and you know that feeds right into what DIFA has always been about, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I know.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So, but it's all such a blur, right? I mean, I just think it's I was thinking about all the times we spent together and all the events and all the table settings and all of that, and it just seems like yesterday, but it seems like 100 years ago too. So,
I know. You need to know that we do. You need to know that we do miss you, and you know, and those things are really significant. You know, just in terms of the history of DIFA and all of us kind of managing through so many trials and tribulations with DIFA. You can imagine right after COVID. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But the board really, they really like coalesced and pulled off this event. You know, and so.
That makes me happy. That's great.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I always wish we would get to a point where we wouldn't need DIFA, but you know, there it is.
I know. Well, we're sort of opening it up a little bit and the definition, because so many things that DIFA does, people don't know.
Right.
It helps in terms of homelessness, in terms of diversity, like all those things, and AIDS. So there's more to do. So always more to do.
Well, I'm always open to help. Always.
That's great, Alfredo.
Always.
So let's talk about this. You know, 33 years at Ralph Lauren. We're going to show some of the amazing work. Was it hard to leave? What was that like?
I mean, it was my entire adult life till about 2.5 years ago. And my relationship with the man was incredible to this day. And it was always, never got boring and never got challenging. I mean, never wasn't challenging. It was just personally, I was coming to a place where I think maybe having children that I wanted to do something else, you know?
Right.
And it was haunting me for a little while. And I was, you know, we'd done some really major projects, and I said to myself, I'm going to get him through the 50th anniversary. And then when that was over, that was it. I said, I'm done.
Amazing.
And so it was hard.
Yeah, I want to talk about him. First of all, we're waiting for William because I have to look out because William's going to pop in and say hello, and other people are saying hi, Carly. People are saying hello. So I'm going to pull up some of, you know, what was it like working for Ralph all those years?
Incredible. I mean, he's a true. I mean, well, how do I put it? He and I spoke a secret language. I mean, he could say something and I immediately understood, and it worked that way forever, you know, and he was challenging, or is challenging, and was a visionary in the sense of wanting to make stuff really, you know, over the top exciting, right? Like,
yeah, definitely.
Mediocre was not in our vocabulary.
Alfredo, how did you start with Ralph?
Well, it's a funny story if you really want to know.
I do want to know.
I went to art school in Atlanta to study fashion illustration and visual arts. And while I was in school, I obviously needed a job. And I got a job working for Laura Ashley. Do you remember Laura Ashley?
Sure, I
remember.
It was
a store in Atlanta in the mall, Lenox Square. And I was the only guy on the staff of like 36 women. Which was fine. I was 19 years old and I worked in the home furnishings department cutting bolts of fabric.
Wow. Wow.
And it was the 12th store in the United States at the time when Laura was alive, and it was a big deal. And you can imagine Laura Ashley in Atlanta in the 80s. It was a huge big deal. So Laura, someone who was on the team that handled the visuals, got very sick, and the manager of the store asked me if I would step in. Fine. I said, sure, that's easy. And of course, I ran with it. And within the year, I was noticed by different companies. Laura Ashley tried to move me to New York. I didn't want to move to New York. I moved to Washington to work for Britches of Georgetown at the time, worked for them for a little bit. Stuff happened. The man I met there became the creative director at Ralph Lauren. He moves to New York to open the mansion on Madison Avenue. And he asked me to come and interview for a job, to come work in the visual department. And I was like, I don't know that I can afford moving to New York. I was 22. You know, it was the height of the AIDS crisis. The last place you wanted to be was New York City.
Yeah.
But I came to the interview and they hired me on the spot and gave me enough money and moved me to live there. And I was in, like Flynn. But it was like being a resident in a hospital. I worked 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and it was amazing. And it never got boring. And as I plateaued, I got up to the next thing, and they gave me more responsibility as it went along. I mean, I was made in charge of store design and creative services, I think at 29.
Wow. Wow, that is unbelievable. Yeah. Everybody out there, if you're just tuning in, 33 years, Alfredo was the chief creative officer, executive VP for Ralph Lauren, 33 years. And don't you think, like, as a young person, when you're exposed to somebody who is so dynamic and so committed, you learn really, really quickly that that it's hard work and discipline and all those things that really move you ahead, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also opportunity. I just saw an amazing road. You know, as a creative person, I think a lot of creative people have a lot of talent and desire, but they get derailed by the sense of that they don't know where to go. They don't see the road, you know, and before you know it, they're a little lost. And I immediately got to the company and it was, wow, like I saw the road and I stayed to the road, and it was great all along. And I mean, Ralph was growing the company and the company kept evolving, and I traveled the whole world. It was amazing. Nothing that was not, you know, was not possible, which was great.
Right, but just for young folks out there, because you said you worked 365 days a year. You worked your tail off, and of course you loved it too, and all those things. But still, it's, you know.
Yeah, no. I worked, you know, 24 hours a day. And it was exciting. Now, the company was very supportive. It was an environment that cultivated that, you know, the sense of people loved what they were doing, and so therefore they worked like crazy people. Right. I got it. And you know, I was also able to work in an environment that retained my teams. I mean, I had almost 200 and something people when I left, and there were people that worked for me for 25 years that never left.
Wow.
And that was a culture that, you know, Ralph was all about training talent, maintaining talent, growing talent, keeping them, giving them a sense of, you know, there's a future. So,
yeah. No, that's
and a lot of really talented people worked with me and with us that are now big designers on their own out there. They left at different points in that trajectory. So
yeah. Wait, Augusto is saying "Buen dia, saludos de Peru" to you, Alfredo.
Thank you. Hola.
So nice. Hola, ¿qué tal? I just wanted to pull up Madison Avenue. I live a few blocks away, so I walk by this incredible building.
Well, can you imagine the level of stress I felt about building a building on the Upper East Side across the street from the Rhinelander and all those, you know, historic buildings that would be sort of accepted by the community and not thought of as, you know, not believable. I was just scared. I was like, but yet it worked out.
Yeah. So I'm going to show. So for the viewers out there, give them a sense of timing when this all happened.
I want to say, and I'm losing track of time, but I want to say that was about 10 years ago, maybe longer, 10 years ago. I was also doing, my teams were working on a project in Paris at the same time, 2 of them in Paris. So a lot of the references for this building came from things we were discovering in Paris at the same time.
Yeah, I'm going to find it. I know the front of the building, it does look like it's family, right?
Yeah, well, that one.
When was this?
That was around the same time. I want to say, when did the volcano happen? You know, the explosion in Europe, whatever that was. That was that year. I was there. We were stuck in Paris while that was going on. And that was really probably my favorite project of all, because it was a complete and total archaeological restoration. The building had not been registered or had not been viewed for 100 years because it was a government office.
Oh, really? So did it feel like an office? Or did
it had acoustical tile ceilings and cubicles everywhere, and, you know, exposed fluorescent lights, and it was.
Oh my God! So everything was a treasure, right?
Everything was behind everything. So of course, once that happened, we had to sort of get it all through what they call the authority that registers everything. Yeah. And it was amazing. I mean, it derailed it a little bit, but it was, you know, and there were things in there that I, from a sort of aesthetic standpoint, would have not necessarily gone with, but because they were registered, I had to work around.
Right.
And it worked. We were like, all right, you want me to keep all the gold? We got to keep the gold. All right. There's a lot of gold in there that's original. So. Amazing.
Amazing. It is glorious. I suppose the courtyard was there, or had it been closed in?
No, the courtyard was there, and the back was an office area, and it occurred to me that it would be a fantastic restaurant courtyard situation, and Ralph was all on board, loved the idea, and we, you know, of course, we found a Roman well in the middle of it. Yeah, that derailed the project for about 6 months, and, you know, because the kitchen is underneath that. The kitchen is underneath. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, that's just to show everyone in the front. Yeah. So, you know, the thing that is hard to kind of understand, and I have so much empathy for the fashion world, and I kind of get it just because of being in media. Like, we are completely on, on this treadmill that is really, 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 you can't get off of it. You have to, you go from one collection to the next.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so you have to be a certain kind of person to handle that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think honestly, maybe that was one of the reasons that I knew it was time for me to do something else, because I feel like perhaps I'd gone on that cycle way too many times already. You know what I mean? Like, I was starting to feel like it was time for me to look at things a different way, because I was getting a little stale maybe, or a little disinterested by it, you know?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But yeah, totally, that treadmill, and within one brand too. So you're within one sort of sensibility and how to sort of keep it moving forward, which was what was exciting about it. You know, Ralph's not a person that likes to sit still. He likes to keep moving, you know?
Wait, I completely get it. Wait, here, is this the restaurant? Wait, hang on a second.
This is the Polo Bar.
Oh, this is the Polo Bar. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's on have you been?
Yeah.
So that was really one of my last projects, and it was part of the project on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
That is now closed, but the restaurant is still open. That space came separate from the other store, but as part of the deal, right? Yeah. And it used to be the Cote Basque restaurant.
Right.
You remember the Cote Basque?
Yeah.
So
I'm there with you now. I was looking for the cafe, because Instagram, all the pictures are mixed up. So when you were talking,
that's okay.
Yeah. So
So this is the Polo Bar. So yeah, so you know, this was a brainchild of Ralph and mine to do a restaurant there that would, you know, and you know, he was very excited about doing this, and you know, of course, he didn't really realize how most of it's in the basement, which I knew was in the basement. So I was super nervous about it, but after being in enough restaurants in London that are in the basement, that are clubby, you know, I've been to a lot. I thought it will be fine. We'll pull it off. You know.
What did he say the first time he went down? You know.
And he loved it. He was blown away. He loved it. It's totally his DNA. I mean, come on. Like it's it was like it was a set right out of one of his. You know. Yeah. You know.
That's the other thing, Alfredo, is, you know, the work, it has a cinema quality to it. And I think people who come from that kind of background are amazing designers, because you have to work quickly on the fly. Things, like you said, things happen.
I would say to people, how did you learn to do this? And I would say for years and years and years, even till when I left, but I was in charge of designing the windows for the stores. So when you have a tiny box to fill in with all the props and statements and ideas to get a story across over and over again, you kind of figure out how to create the story over time. You hone it. And that was why building bigger spaces or building home collections became easy, because I knew that this is the backdrop to this particular fashion idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally, you know? Totally.
Same thing with sets for the fashion shows, sets for, you know, when we would do advertising shoots and stuff, it was set design. All of it's set design. You know?
Yeah, you know, that's the other thing. I think, like, sometimes when you end up like with a big title, you know, even today, people probably have no idea what I do and how to the detail we all are, and especially as somebody like with a creative officer or design officer title, like, it is all about the brand, and everything has to be the brand, and that funnels down into everything, and it's a lot of work.
Well, it's a complex idea that you want to keep. You know, the idea of keeping things elevated. You know what? You know Mark Cunningham?
Yeah.
Mark Cunningham worked with me for years, and I adore him. He's like, I mean, I was the boss, but he's my mentor, and I took from him. But he taught me one thing. Always, he would say, "So, does it look cheap?" So that's a funny concept. How do you know if it looks cheap, right? But you kind of know what I'm saying. It's like when you're in it, when you look at it through that lens, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
no, that's super. I know it's so interesting how certain people in your life, there are moments that you will never ever forget.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah. You know, I worked at Calvin Klein on the fragrance side, like early in my career. And and when I think about branding, I still remember, like, as a young person in the fragrance department, I remember everything passing by and people having to sign off on them, you know, having to sign off so that it stayed a certain way. And that was always, at the time, I didn't know, but it was very influential in my mind about, like, how things have to stay tight, you know?
Well, because there's a lot of room for mistake, and not because you're not because you're want to be a dictator about it, but just because it's a big, you know, there's a lot of room for nuance and mistake, and you know, and fortunately, I was never a manager that micromanaged to the point that, because we had projects all over the world. I mean, I couldn't be, you know, so. But I had to establish a good team, and I established the things that I felt were really non-negotiables. Right. Yeah. You know?
Now, I know you did a lot, so this is a hard question, but, like, can you maybe describe where you were, like, at your like, what kind of things you were at your happiest during different?
Well, I mean, it's a long time, so there was a lot of different phases, but I have to say my favorite thing to do was to design a big, beautiful store and you know, make it all come together. The installation, the purchasing, you know, the movie set of it all, you know. You know, I also loved Christmas, you know, designing Christmas for the globe, for everywhere, and how to make it, you know, pulling it together.
How early would you be designing Christmas?
Well, most companies would do it a year in advance, but we would start about once we knew what the clothes were, which usually around May or June. So then you kind of, whatever the concept might be or was going to be, we tried to pull it together. You know?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I didn't know that you, it makes so much sense. And like I said, sometimes you don't think about it, but I'm looking at some of the fashion shows and like, so how much would you get involved in those?
100%. I mean, the creative services team did all of it and I was in charge of it. So this was the 50th anniversary event in Central Park and, you know, there's a lot of moving parts and, you know, how to have a dinner for, I think it was like 400 people outside or maybe 200, maybe 300, I don't remember, but it was out in the, you know, out there and we, you know, kept it simple but beautiful.
Yeah, simple and beautiful is nice. Where was it?
This is in the, what's it called? By the fountain. What's it called now? The underpass.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't remember what it's called.
It's okay.
Anyway, but it was, you know, I'd been there a million times and I was always like, this would be a great place for a show.
Was it hard to get approval for that?
Yeah, I mean, sure, but they, you know, it's a sponsorship. The park, you know, has all sorts of rules and stuff, but they got into it.
Amazing.
And, you know, I mean, they've used it for TV commercials or TV shows and stuff, but those steps were pretty treacherous. I was like, okay, this is like girls in 7-inch heels going down those steps. It was pretty treacherous, but nothing happened.
That's scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary. Okay. Oh, there's Ralph. There's Ralph.
Yeah.
You see him?
Yep.
This image was small, so it didn't blow up so well. Where is this?
This was in Ralph's garage in Bedford.
Ah.
I designed this garage for him a few years before this event. And I want to say this was maybe 3 years ago. And he has a beautiful, huge car collection. And prior to that, I think it was in multiple places. So I think he was trying to figure out where to keep them all. And they found a space. And you know, we made it like an art gallery.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. How many cars? It's hard to see. 1, 2.
Well, I won't, don't quote me because it changes all the time, but a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
He keeps that, a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2 floors of garage space. So, yeah.
So wait a minute, I'm going to come out for a second. I want to tell us a little bit about, because your apartment, which is more like a home, so like we'll show the pictures, but what was it like finding that space and what kind of what kind of shape was it in?
Well, I mean, I feel like, I've explained it a million times, but the way that apartment came together was I was living in Tribeca prior to that, and it was nice. I had a beautiful loft, whatever. It was published. I liked it, but I didn't really love it. And I knew it was time to sell it, and yet I didn't know where I wanted to go. And this apartment in the East Village, the East Village is like my second home when I first moved to New York, and I was so excited that this apartment came up and was in the East Village. But it was a pretty big mess, you know? It was like a real mess and an expensive mess. And I was like, God, you know, and I kept going back. I saw it like 4 times and other people saw it. They couldn't figure it out. And I kept going back and the price kept getting reduced. And finally, my apartment sold, the other apartment. And I was like, all right, let's do this. And it was, you know, if you look at the pictures of the apartment, those 5 windows along the front didn't exist. None of that was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the space outside none of it was there, by the way, none of it. The terrace was pretty much nothing. And I was like, I felt like I had just spent a lot of time in Belgium and in Amsterdam and in Rome. And I was like, you know, I go to people's apartments in Rome where you go up these crazy stairs and you don't know where you are and you end up on a rooftop somewhere. And I was like, I love that. That's what I want, you know? And I wanted a place that felt like it was always there. I hate the winter so much. I'm a Cuban from Miami. And I was like, I have to design an apartment that sort of embraces the wintertime with, you know, the sunlight is always in there. It's always warm, fireplace. And, you know, and so I was like, people come in and say, was it here? I was like, no, it's a set. I built it.
It's a
put
set.
in windows, put in everything. We did all of it.
Amazing.
The church, that's the St. Mark's Church. And to me, it reminded me of that Hitchcock movie, Rope, you know, where there was that incredible,
it really does.
that weird perspective of that church. And the bells go off every hour on the half hour. So I was like, okay, this is magic. I've got to do this. So
it's so stunning. So how hard was it to do? How long did it take?
Well, I worked with these architects that worked with me on the outside at Ralph Lauren, Michael Newman Architects, who I've trusted implicitly forever.
Yeah, I know.
And they're my friends, and we got through it. I mean, you know, I drove them crazy because I always drive them crazy because I knew exactly what I wanted. But there was a lot of sort of things to work out. So it took, I want to say it was about a year of design and permitting, and then about another year of, so 2 years altogether of getting it done.
Where did you live at the time? Because you said your apartment sold.
We rented the apartment that we sold. We were able to stay in for a year, and then I moved into my friend, you know who Andre Malone is? His apartment he was renting, which was a tiny studio or one bedroom that we moved into for 6 months or something like that. And then when I moved, it was like, you know, everything came on hoisted onto the terrace because I couldn't even get it through the front door. It was like, we're done. Everything was in.
Wow. Wow.
So,
that's crazy.
And it's a really special spot, you know?
Yeah, I do know. I mean, I see. It's really a special spot.
But it's funny because those windows were it was a little French door and some windows. And I just thought to myself, you know, I'm going to kick myself if I don't blow out that facade and see the church. And I was like, okay, that's going to cost a pretty penny, but let's go for it. And fortunately, I could afford it. So glad I did.
That terrace is so deep.
Yeah, it's 1,000 square feet. It's the same size as the living room. That was the thing. You don't, very rarely do you see apartments where the terrace is off the living room, right? In Manhattan, that size.
Yeah,
you know?
It's insane. By the way, William is on. He says, William, ask Alfredo a question or make a comment. He said, iconic. So he's on, chatting away over there.
Hi, William.
William's also doing great things, and it's super fun. It's so great to catch up and like.
He's a great friend and good advisor, so it's good.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So let me ask you, what's it like being a dad?
Best thing of my entire life. Best thing. I never imagined this would happen, and completely, I don't know. It's completely the best. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm glad I didn't do it earlier, to be honest. Though I wish I had someday. So it's just, I mean, I often say to my husband, I'm like, can you imagine when you were running Interview and I was running Ralph Lauren and we also had kids in the middle of all that?
Right.
Very
it would
hard.
be impossible. I know.
Well, the kids would not be as happy as they are today. And that's really what matters, right?
Yes.
So, and you know, the pandemic, like I took a year off before the pandemic, and then the pandemic was a little of what I call a soft opening. I was able to be there more. So they've benefited from that time. So it's good.
Wait. Where were you during the pandemic?
Well, before the pandemic, I took a year off. And we have a place on Shelter Island, and I went to Shelter Island, you know, and traveled and whatever. It was with the kids. And then when the pandemic hit, I went out to Shelter Island, and hence Shelter Island, you know, which is really good, which is good. Quiet, but good.
Wait, so let's talk about what's going on right now, because it's interesting to think about. And look, like for instance, I've been with interior design I've been editor for 20, but I've been with them for like 25 years. So I understand, you know, it's that like deep commitment to what you're doing, deep loyalty to the brand. For me, it's a deep love for the design community, and for you too. And so 33 years, it's unbelievable. And now having to think, like, I'm sure you don't have to do anything if you didn't want to, but.
Well, I mean, that's all relative, right?
Right. It's all relative.
It's all relative. I didn't leave because I didn't want to work.
Right.
I left because I wanted to get out from behind the back seat and just see what I could do on my own. As scary as that sound some days.
Yeah.
You know, my shrink, don't laugh, my shrink used to have this metaphor. She said, life is like a trapeze. You have to believe that the bar is coming.
Ah, that's
Or
nice.
otherwise you just swing, you just hang there. You have to jump and go and believe it. And that visual always helped me in almost everything. Like, okay, have faith that you can get to the next thing. And it seems to work, so knock on wood.
Someone's telling you that you are amazing with
Thank
a
you.
watermelon, which was very cute. So, because you know it's summer and all. So, thank you.
Well, I think she liked my hint water. You know, my water.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
So, so Alfredo, I think the hardest thing is imagining. Like, even I was having these conversations with William. You know, so many things have taken off for him. Maybe not necessarily the things that he imagined, but like you know, you're ready for so many different opportunities.
Right. Yes. So what's the question in that?
Oh, so just like, sorry, I don't know if I had the question yet. Sorry. It's sort of like hard to imagine because you can kind of do anything, and you were doing everything at this one place. Now the world's your oyster, but that's, you know, it's sort of like. So, you know.
Yeah, no, I understand. And that was the advice I got from people that I really respected when I was ready to leave was like, take a year off. Don't think about anything about the future. Don't think about what you're going to do, what it'd be like, because you'll just get muddled into let it go. And that was hard, particularly in New York. You know, New Yorkers are like, what do you mean? Did you have a nervous breakdown?
Right.
Like, there was a little bit of, and I just wanted to find my own voice and see where that goes. And then when I got out of that, I realized that I love design. I'm really good at set design. I don't think I'm a decorator, but I'm really good at envisioning and visualizing something and leading a team into creating amazing spaces. And that's been what I do, and I really enjoy that. So I wanted to get back to that. I mean, I tell a story about me as a child. I'm the oldest of four, and when my parents would leave the house, I would completely get them all on board that we were cleaning the house, which meant that all the furniture had to be pulled outside. Everything had to be moved into the yard, and then it would all come back in and be restyled, completely restyled. And I did it over and over again, and my parents were like, what is going on? And my siblings just did it, you know? So it's what I do. It's how I'm wired, you know?
Right.
You know, and working in fashion was really exciting. But I was in the environmental aspect of it anyway. I was the background for all of it. Even though I had to be intimately involved with him about the clothes to understand, I was, you know, that's not where I lived.
So how do you open up this new world for you?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I realized, you know, when I took the time off, I realized that especially when the pandemic started, how much you needed to sort of set up, like, you know, what are you going to say? You can't be talking about Ralph Lauren 24/7 the past. You have to move forward. So I set up my website. I got good, you know, PR people, consultants, people to help me get an office together, and projects are coming. They're, you know, got a licensing deal with Design Furniture with EJ Victor, so I'm doing that. And, you know, that's it. Somehow, strangely, it's coming. I just don't know how.
Yeah, it's like having to step out, you know. Yeah.
A friend of mine who's in publishing said to me, "You're one of the best known unknown people because everyone's seen the work."
Yeah.
And that's
it's true. But it's true, and it is true in that way that, you know, I don't know, it's a different generation now, but like what you did was extraordinary, and staying so loyal is also extraordinary.
Well, thank you. And it wasn't hard to do.
Right.
Because the environment really, like I said, whenever I plateaued or when when you thought you were done, they made sure you weren't done and moved you on to the next thing. It never got boring, you know. It was lucrative. It became something worth sticking around. He made sure of that, you know, and yet it was its own ecosystem that at a certain point you're like, okay, I got to swim in another ecosystem, you know, because it's got very internalized.
Yes.
If that makes sense. You know?
Yeah, it totally does. Ilana Steele is sending you love and good wishes. So thank you.
Thank you.
So let me pull up some of this. So tell us about this.
So, you know, so the company I'm working with, they used to do Ralph Lauren Home. I mean, furniture, and they used to do Kelly Wearstler. They do Ellen DeGeneres now. They do Ryan Corbett. So when they were talking to me one day because they do a lot of hospitality, and we just decided that it would be cool to do a collection. And then I was like, okay, well, how am I going to do it? Like, what am I going to do that is, because again, I'm so accustomed to putting it in an environment, something that has a sense of place, without getting into, you know, themes. So I thought, you know what, the thing that's most associated with me is my place. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do things that I would want to have in my apartment. And that's where it started, you know, and my love for, you know, I was born in Coconut Grove in the 60s and very, very impressionable with hippies and sort of rock and roll, but then mixed with Cuban music. So it was kind of a very exotic, and I really love that. That's why I want to be in East Village, and why, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but all of that period in time influenced me, you know, and so that's how I ended up with this vibe, this idea, because I was like, I can't all of a sudden be building ski chalets or whatever. It needed to be something relevant, you know?
Exactly.
To me.
And like you said, you know yourself well enough, and it's that language you're expressing, which makes it different than anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I was the one that led the team that bought all the props at Ralph Lauren. I traveled the world, Paris, once a month to, you know, buy that flea market, and there was endless ideas and endless stuff, you know? So there's a large reservoir in my mind of like what can be made, you know?
Right.
And
you sent me over, which I'd love you to talk about, because it's super fun to see all your mood boards.
Yeah, so this is a project we're doing up in, well, this is other people's houses, obviously. This is not mine. But this is a really cool house on an island in, well, that jumped up to a restaurant in Florida.
Oh, sorry. Oh, they're all different. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a house that I'm working on in Dark Harbor, Maine, which is Islesboro. It's a beautiful old little red farmhouse that is the interior is getting all, you know, redone, and this is the vibe.
I love the rope. I love the rope.
Stripe up the middle and all of that. It seems modern and cool, you know?
Totally.
Did you freeze?
Oh, somebody froze.
I think it's you.
Oh no. I see you. You see me?
Yeah, but you're frozen. You're spinning around.
Okay.
Oh, guy moved you. There you go.
Okay.
Now I'm doing, this image is just an inspiration. I love the way that register is done, and it's a place we're doing in Florida. I can't say where, but it's a restaurant in Florida that'll be announced the next few weeks. So
I love that, and I love when you just described you. It works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
This is an image of a place outside of Tulum called Essencia, but I just finished a beautiful project in Cabo that, I mean, I like the blue and the orange. That's what that's about. I won't give away anymore, but it's a beautiful big house for a celebrity couple, and it's going to be beautiful. And it's beautiful. Excited.
And so what is it like doing this under your brand now?
Well, fortunately, I mean, you know, there are moments where I try to sort of navigate, is it too Ralph Lauren, or is it not Ralph Lauren enough, or what am I saying versus what, and then I realize it's me, so I'm just going to do what I do.
Right, exactly.
You know, this is more of the Pulpit Harbor place in Maine, up in Maine. You know, the ceilings are low up top. It's an 18th century farmhouse.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So this is for a big project I'm working on in Russia.
Wow.
You know,
how did you get that? That's interesting.
Yeah, beautiful residential sort of residential spa, you know, amenities, beach club complex that we're doing in Russia. And that's really for mood. Like, I really love that stair and the way that I mean, obviously that's the Carlisle on the right,
Yeah.
but the vibe of all that.
Yeah, beautiful. Wait, here's one last. Even
Yeah,
though
and
I'm
it's sort of in Sochi, so it sort of wants to feel very. The inspiration is very Monte Carlo or south of France, you know, Côte d'Azur, something like that.
How is it that you will now like develop your business just in terms of like people that you need, and you know, those are all those complications.
Yeah, well, I have an amazing partner here with me. She worked with me at Ralph Lauren for 25 years, and you know, we're figuring that out as we go along. And there are other people that have worked, that are consulting with me, that are very helpful. But it is a challenge. Like, you know, where's the next project? Finding people's turning out to be hard.
Right.
Have you found that?
No, I mean, that's what I hear. You know, when you know, it is a completely different mindset, right?
Well, even I mean, I'm finding like I need some good architects that, you know, that want to work.
I see what you mean, that you're looking,
but we're having trouble finding people that want to work. They only want to work remotely, and I mean in other cities.
I know.
You know.
It's such a weird time right now, and I think we've been sequestered for so long that the initial of I can't wait to get back, now people are saying, oh, I could just be doing it this way. I don't know if that's the eventual, because I just feel like we're such social beings. And
yeah, I don't know that as a creative person, I can't work without face-to-face contact. It just doesn't work.
I know.
You know, there's too much spontaneity. You lose me in a Zoom call. I'm like,
right.
I can't see a color. I can't see a texture.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't want to sit there the whole time. I want to stand and walk around.
Totally.
You know, I don't know. It's got to be, and I think that's going to be around for everything. Fashion, who goes to it? How can you fit clothes via Zoom?
Right.
You know, or any of that stuff. So, you know, I think it's to be determined. But right now, you know, putting your business plan together and keeping it growing and moving forward is the challenge, and seeing what you're going to do, you know? Yeah.
Well, you've always been able to, sorry, the comments were all over your face, so I like turned them off.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still in it, you know what I mean? We're like getting to the other side of it, but it's still, there's still so much question marks, right?
Yeah, and yet I also believe of all the cities in the world to sort of bank on, it's New York City. I mean, I lived here in '86. It was pretty dodgy and depressing.
Yes.
And yet I loved it.
Yeah.
So if you're young enough and there's things to inspire you to be here, I don't know. Again, it was a different time. We were much hungrier somehow, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think I think it hasn't, you know, leveled out to like a reality. We're still.
Well, also the idea of social media and the internet and being able to work from home on a computer was not an option. No. So now people have that option. And I mean, thank God for the last year, I was able to design a furniture collection in a building in Mexico from my Zoom, from my phone, basically.
Can you imagine? I mean, that's what I think. We think, you know, we hate technology. We love technology. And, you know, if we didn't have it, everyone would have been bankrupt. Like, thank God. Like, that you're able to do that.
Yeah. And so, you know, we'll see. So, you know, and also people always ask me, well, what's it like? How do you feel? Like, how are you doing? How are you busy? And I'm like, I have a moment where I go, well, compared to how busy I was before, nothing seems busy. Does that make sense? But nothing. I feel like, but I was so overly stimulated and overly, you know, and that so I'm much better now. I'm happier that it's not like that. So
it's a new chapter. It's a new chapter.
Yeah.
And you know, you were the guy, you know, and it filled you in a lot of different ways. I remember William was saying something that rang really true for him, which was like, somebody said, you know, you don't have to fill your calendar. Like, that doesn't really mean anything, you know, like find meaning. And, you know, for William, who was like, you know.
No, it's the same. It's the same. Like, you know, I just knew, you know, I'm someone who really believes that idea of like, you have to follow your you follow your own gut, right? And that's how I got to where I am. And then I just got to a place where I was swept away with too much other stuff that just it wasn't filling me up. I'm super creative. I'm hyper creative. I don't want to sit in board meetings and that all changed it. And that's not what I want to do. And so once I think I was able to unbundle what that meant, I realized that's where I'm at, Yeah. So there are days where you get super insecure because you're like, oh my God, I don't have the machine behind me that I have to pull off that sense of scale. But then I look at it the other way and say, well, I don't want to do that sense of scale.
I get it. I
mean, we're doing I think it was 300 projects a year.
Yeah. It's crazy. Crazy. Yeah. By the way, I want to say hi because Samuel is watching from Uganda. So
wow, cool.
Very, very cool. And somebody else is watching from Greece, and that's all amazing. And people are saying
amazing. And India.
Yeah, it's really, really great. No, I mean, you're, Alfredo, you were always an inspiration. And it like you said, sometimes you have to remind yourself that actually that was you. Okay, now you don't have the machine behind, but everything you did was you, and Ralph trusted you in that way.
Yeah.
And yes, there was a brand, and you understood the brand really well, but it's you.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for saying that. And I'm in touch with that. So it took me a while, and also I also worked with a lot of really creative, talented people. That we were a tribe, people that I used to call it the back lot at MGM. We had it all. We had it. I mean, that's why DIFA was such a pleasure. I would literally pull all this, the whole machine together, and we would just do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Well, I'm just looking forward. First of all, we have to stay in touch. You have to let us know how we can support you as interior design, and
that's great.
Get stuff out there and let people know, and all of that good stuff. Right?
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And get me involved with DIFA again if you need anyone. Yes,
we'll talk offline. Absolutely. When you feel like you're ready for that kind of energy, we want.
Well, I mean, look. I also am keenly aware, and I've always been keenly aware that I'm lucky and that I was fortunate, and by the grace of God go I, and that you need to push it forward. So it's not. I may not be able to do it at the same level when I was at Ralph, but I certainly.
Every little bit. That's the thing too. We're every little bit really matters, and your energy would be great. So we should relook at that.
All right, great.
All right, wait. I have to take a picture of us. Okay, I'll take a couple pictures. I'm just clicking. Sure, there's something cute there. Well, listen, Alfredo, I'm sending you big love.
Oh, I appreciate it. Same to you.
Thanks, William, for bringing Alfredo forward. I'm sure there's many successes in the future, or whatever you want it to be. I can totally see it. I see your beautiful smile and see you again. It really makes me so happy.
Thank you. Me too. I really appreciate it. I always love spending time with you. So whenever, we'll catch up.
Once I'm back in the city, we'll catch up again.
Okay. All right.
All right. So to everyone out there, thank you so much for joining from all over the world. Loved Alfredo Paredes. Amazing. And sending big love. And go forth and design, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.